dari can you hear me?
Ya Bu, lanjut Bu.
Dari PT PAN Maritime Prawita dan Bapak Martin Chu dari Inospec Limited. Yang saya banggakan, para pengurus DPP INSA yang telah berjuang selama ini bersama-sama untuk kemajuan organisasi dan industri pelayaran nasional. Juga para hadirin sekalian, selamat Waisak yang merayakan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Semoga sehat selalu. Syukur alhamdulillah kita dapat bertemu secara virtual pada hari ini. Kita memang masih harus mengadakan acara secara virtual kembali dan diingatkan lagi untuk disiplin protokol kesehatan yang mengingat penularan COVID-19 ini akhir-akhir ini terus menanjak. Pertemuan ini spesial karena dalam rangka training INSA Academy yang nantinya akan menjadi agenda rutin DPP INSA. Tujuan kenapa INSA harus menggelar INSA Academy ini tidak lain dalam rangka meningkatkan wawasan dan pengetahuan kita semua yang bergelut di sektor pelayaran tentang beragam isu dan persoalan seputar industri pelayaran nasional dan dunia. Nanti kita berharap melalui training dan sharing ini akan meningkatkan kapasitas dan kapabilitas perusahaan-perusahaan pelayaran nasional dalam menghadapi setiap tantangan dan menangkap setiap peluang yang ada. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, seperti kita sama-sama ketahui, sejak tahun 2020, International Maritime Organization atau IMO menetapkan FSFO atau kadar sulfur rendah pada bahan bakar minyak kapal. Kadar sulfur dalam BBM harus kurang dari 5%. Ketentuan LSFO ini terkait efek atau dampak dari sulfur terhadap polusi dan kualitas udara. Dengan kadar sulfur lebih rendah akan lebih ramah lingkungan dan baik terhadap kelangsungan hidup manusia. Tapi tentunya kebijakan ini membuat pelayaran harus memutar otak kembali karena biaya bahan bakar dengan kadar sulfur rendah akan lebih mahal. Sedangkan kita tahu biaya bahan bakar merupakan komponen biaya terbesar dalam kos operasional pelayaran. Belum lagi cost maintenance yang akan juga ikut lebih naik karena LSFO dengan kadar sulfur rendah akan mengurangi daya lumas dari BBM di kapal. Dampaknya akan merusak pemesinan kapal yang bergerak seperti plunyer pompa BBM, piston ring dan liner. Di tengah nafas bisnis di industri pelayaran yang tersengah-sengah karena dihantam COVID-19 dan kita harus sama-sama menarik ikat pinggang kita lebih kencang. Tapi justru kita di sini diharapkan pada kos tambahan, yaitu pada pos bahan bakar dan maintenance. Pada peserta INSA Academy yang saya banggakan, di sisi lain Amerika dan Eropa masih melakukan ban terhadap produk CPO yang merupakan komoditas ekspor utama kita. Menyiasati agar produksi CPO masih tetap terserap. Pemerintah menggunakan palm oil dan metan sebagai fame untuk pencabutan BBM solar dan diesel oil. Sejak diterapkan beberapa tahun lalu dengan memulai dari B20, kini penggunaannya di dalam negeri sudah ditingkatkan menjadi B30. Sebagai informasi di Europe dan Amerika di sana, penggunaan minyak sawit dalam solar itu hanya 7% atau hanya B7 saja. Karena tingginya campuran fame pada biosolar akan membuat semakin tingginya korosif biosolar terhadap pipa bahan bakar dan bagian-bagian permesinan itu sendiri. Belum lagi karakter biosolar yang sensitif terhadap humidity udara sehingga penyebab emulsif pada biosolar. Apalagi dalam biosolar tidak dipakai lebih dari 8 minggu, maka biosolar itu akan terbentuk jelly dan biosolar tersebut tidak dapat digunakan dan menyebabkan buntunya salur BBM. Bapak dan Ibu tamu undangan yang saya hormati, di training INSA Academy ini kita akan mendengarkan para expert di bidang permesinan dan bahan bakar kapal. Mereka adalah praktisi yang sudah bertahun-tahun bergelut di bidang ini, sehingga sudah sangat memahami apa saja yang bisa kita lakukan untuk menghadapi persoalan di atas. Sekaligus akan membuka insight baru untuk kita tentang cara penanganan bahan bakar minyak terhadap mesin kapal dan juga perawatannya. Saya juga mau mengucapkan banyak terima kasih kepada para sponsor, yaitu ExxonMobil Marine Lubricant, Bapak Kong Wei Seng, yang mungkin tanpa dukungannya acara ini belum tentu dapat terlaksana dengan baik. Tidak lupa saya mengapresiasi setinggi-tingginya kepada seluruh panitia, para pengurus DPP INSA yang telah mengorbankan waktu, pikiran, dan tenaga agar acara INSA Academy ini terlaksana. Mungkin ini saja dari saya, mohon maaf bila ada salah kata dan sikap. Selamat mengikuti training virtual INSA Academy. Semoga memberikan manfaat untuk kita semua. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bu Karmelita atas paparannya. Buat teman-teman sekalian, saya sharing sedikit ya tentang acara hari ini, rundown-nya seperti apa. Oke, ini adalah rundown-nya. This is today's rundown. So we have there's a 4. Before is 4. Currently, we add from I think from Mr. Harun would like to give us more knowledge on these marine engines. So currently we add another speakers, become 5. So if you look at it, the first one will be under like impact of biofuels, Embat by Pak Nyoman. Also like is from DPP INSA. Second is biofuel applications by Pak Rizky ya, followed by ExxonMobil, Conwising, dan Mr. Martin and Mr. Harun. So we do hope that during this session, all of you can mute. Jadi selama sesi ini para audiens sebaiknya bisa mute. Nanti kita akan open Q&A session setelah paparan dari 5 speaker kita. Nah, Q&A ini berdurasi sekitar 20 sampai 25 menit. Jadi kalau ada pertanyaan bisa ditulis ya pada kolom chat di bawah akan kita tanggapin dan menjawab Q&A tersebut. Kalau bisa ditambah juga nama dari mana, ditujukan ke speaker mana, dan dari perusahaan mana. Oke, sekarang kita introduce ya our first speaker. So our first speaker is Pak Nyoman. Pak Nyoman is a marketing manager, general manager of PT Patria Maritime Lines. Before he has experience to be engineer, Sada Nusantara, sales manager in United Tractors, and in DPP INSA. Pak Nyoman, waktu dan tempat kita serahkan ke Pak Nyoman. Terima kasih.
Oke, sudah kelihatan Pak?
Jelas Pak?
Jelas ya? Oke, baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, salam budaya. Yang terhormat Ibu Karmelita Artuto, yang terhormat jajaran pengurus DPP INSA, DPC di seluruh Indonesia, dan juga para peserta Zoom yang saya banggakan. Jadi, pada kesempatan ini, saya Nyoman Hari yang mewakili bidang Tug and Barge akan menyampaikan presentasi yaitu penggunaan bahan bakar solar B30 pada Tagen Bars, studi kasus di perusahaan di tempat saya bekerja, PT Peraturan Menteri Lines, dan tentunya nanti di sini juga ada teman-teman dari tim Tagen Bars yang bisa jadi narasumber dan juga sebagai pemakai B30 di Tagen Bars. Nanti dalam tanya jawab bisa juga memberikan sharingnya. Dan juga saya juga ajak teman saya di sini dari operasional, ada Pak Wahyu, Pak Yogi, Pak Miftah. Semoga nanti bisa menjadi narasumber kalau ada pertanyaan yang lebih detail. Oke, saya mulai Pak. Sebelum ke intinya, jadi next. Sebentar Pak, aku belum mau next ya. Pak Ronald, Pak Roland.
Yes, Pak.
Sepertinya nge-jam nih, nggak bisa masuk nih, nggak bisa next.
Bisa next ya. Oke.
Ya.
Mungkin tuh slide show-nya Pak, ditekan slide show mungkin Pak. Iya.
Saya sudah tekan slide show-nya ini, tapi nggak mau juga nih.
Oh gitu. Oke, coba dari saya ya. Ini ada materinya Pak. Ini.
Pak Roland ada kan?
Ada Pak. Ada.
Wah, nggak mau sama sekali nih. Saya stop sharing dulu ya.
Oke, boleh Pak.
Mohon maaf, Bapak-Bapak.
Menandakan kalau materi Pak Nyoman ini padat banget Pak. Sampai ngehang ini. Oke.
Oke, sekilas sebelum masuk ke presentasi inti, saya memperkenalkan diri di perusahaan kami bahwa kita Patria Maritim Line itu ada di bawah naungan PT United Tractors Pandu Engineering dengan brand Patria. Kita ada anak perusahaan PT United Tractors di bawah naungan Nastra. Patria, PT United Tractors Pandu Engineering itu mempunyai 4 anak perusahaan, Patria Maritim Line, kemudian Patria Maritim Industri itu docking ada di Banjarmasin, Patria Maritim Perkasa itu shipyard ada di Batam, dan juga ada sedikit perusahaan yang agak melenceng ikan ya, Patria Perikanan Lestari Industri. Kalau ngelihat tonggak sejarah perjalanan Patria dari tahun 83 itu adalah mensupport UT dalam hal manufaktur alat-alat berat untuk tambang batu bara, emas, dan lain sebagainya. Kemudian pada tahun 2008 kita masuk ke air, yaitu membuat perusahaan shipping company khususnya ngangkut batu bara dari grup dengan Tagen Bars. Next Pak. Next. Oke. Untuk Patria Maritim Line sendiri, kita termasuk perusahaan yang baru ya, baru berdiri tahun 2008. Kemudian kita mostly di Tagen Bars ya. Kemudian kita coba juga mengoperasikan invest floating crane. Kita punya 1 set dan juga Tagen Bars, SPB ada 1 set. Jadi kalau engine-nya kita menggunakan Yanmar ya, baik itu 300 feet maupun 320 feet, dan mostly ini beroperasi di Kalimantan Selatan, khususnya di Sungai Barito, dan ada mungkin ya begitu banyak ke Inter Island. Jadi kita kebanyakan di sungai untuk mengangkut batu bara dari Kalimantan Tengah menuju ke Tabunio. Next. Oke, kita mulai masuk ke pemakaian bahan bakar B30 di tag and bars kami. Lanjut. Next. Oke, sebelum kita mulai, kita coba lihat dulu latar belakang pemakaian B30, di mana dari tahun 2008 ada Permen ESDM Nomor 32 tahun 2008, itu mulai penggunaan biodiesel dengan campuran 2,5 sampai 7,5%, itu 2008 sampai 2010. Kemudian di 2014 naik ke 10%, kemudian 2015 permennya diganti dengan Permen Nomor 32 tahun 2015, sama tentang pemanfaatan dan tata niaga bahan bakar nabati, di mana persentase daripada FAME dari CPO ditingkatkan dari 15% ke 20% dan akan lanjut sampai ke 30% mulai tahun 2020. Next. Oke, ini ya wajib kita sampaikan sedikit. Ini dari sumbernya dari ESDM, bahwa nanti manfaat program daripada B30 ini bahwa penggunaan volume ya fuel B30 di tahun 2020 9,59 juta, kemudian ada penghematan devisa, ya, infonya 63,39 triliun, ada peningkatan nilai tambah CPO menjadi biodiesel sebesar 13,8 triliun, mempertahankan tenaga kerja petani sawit yang ada di kebun 1,2 juta, kemudian di luar kebun ada pabrik segala macam 9.000 orang, kemudian pengurangan emisi gas rumah kaca sebesar 14,25 juta ton. Ini sumbernya dari SDM. Oke, ini manfaatnya cukup banyak. Next. Nah, kita mulai dengan pemakaian di tag and bars kami. Sebelum kami menggunakan, tentunya kami juga pelajari terlebih dahulu bagaimana sebenarnya spesifikasi daripada B30 dan kesesuaian pemakaiannya di engine maker Yanmar. Coba di enter, Pak. Enter. Nah, oke. Ini kalau kita lihat, yang kita perbandingkan adalah ada beberapa poin di engine maker seperti viskositas yang diizinkan berapa gitu ya, flash point, residual carbon, sulfur content. Yang di sebelah kanan nih Pak, ada ash content, ada diesel index gitu. Dan kalau kita bandingkan yang di graf diagram sebelah kiri, ya, yang HSD sama B30, poin-poin yang ada di engine maker Yanmar itu semuanya masuk gitu ya. Seperti viskositas di engine Yanmar dibutuhkan 3-8, sedangkan di B30 ada minimum 2, maksimum 5, jadi masuk. Flash point-nya minimal 60 derajat Celcius, di sini speknya 60, masuk. Ada residual karbonnya lebih kecil dari 0,7, di sini 0,01 masuk. Kemudian ada sulfur content lebih kecil dari 1%. Di sini sulfurnya 0,25 masuk. Ada ash content 0,03. Di sini di B30 0,01, oke masuk. Jadi semua masuk. Jadi sebelum kita memakai, kita confirm ke engine maker Yanmar bahwa ini aman dipakai. Nah, setelah itu baru kita mulai pakai. Next, Pak. Pak Roland, next. Oke. Nah, di dalam pemakaian B30 ini, ya setelah kita masukkan ke dalam daily tank gitu ya, kita coba lakukan lab analysis waktu itu ke Sukovindo. walaupun di spesifikasi, kalau kita lihat di sebelah ini ya, di Dirjen Migas punya spesifikasi B30, tapi kita juga coba tes ulang juga gitu ya. B30 ini ke Skovindo. Dari 19 item, dari water content, phase point, viscositas, pure point, sulfur content, sedimen, as, dan seterusnya, itu hampir semua masuk, namun ada satu yang nggak masuk, yaitu particle count atau cleanliness-nya, kebersihannya. Ya. Di paling bawah Pak, yang warna merah ini, paling bawah yang warna merah. Jadi di spesifikasi yang ada di Dirjen Migas sesuai dengan ISO 4406 itu ada tertulis 18, 16, 13 gitu ya. Ini particle count yang 4 mikron, 6 mikron, 14 mikron. Nah, sementara hasil labnya itu adalah 21, 19, 15. Ini kita ada di dua tag ya, Patria 3 dan Patria 11. Itu juga sama, 21, 19. Apa ini? Kita lihat ke sebelah kanan. Di sebelah kanan, 18 itu tingkat kontaminasi oleh partikel yang lebih besar dari 4 mikron, itu sebesar 1.300 sampai 2.500 ppm. Ya, part per million. Kemudian yang angka 16 itu kontaminasi partikel 6 mikron ke atas, dan yang terakhir 14 mikron ke atas. Itu harusnya cuma 40 sampai 80 part per million. Namun hasil pengecekan di Skovindo itu tinggi sekali. Yang 4 mikron itu harusnya 1.300, di sini di 13.107. Kemudian yang 6 mikron ada di 3.000, yang di 14 mikron ada di 252. Jadi cukup tinggi. Nah, dari sini, coba next Pak. Next Pak. Nah, pemakaian di tahun 2020 kemarin, kemudian nih kalau nggak salah sampai bulan Oktober ya, kita terus terang banyak mengalami problem di nozzle Pak. Ya, ini semua problem-problem di nozzle yang kita alami gitu ya. Ini nama setnya ya, Brahma 9, Patra 2, Brahma 11, dan seterusnya mengalami kebocoran nozzle lagi, bocor, FIV mungkin tersumbat, nozzle, perbaikan. Nah, ini di AE-nya juga ada problem, ini perbaikan-perbaikannya selama berapa hari, seperti itu. Kemudian di Patra 3 ada juga AE-nya kena. Nah, ini lebih banyak di nozzle yang kena. Gitu. Ya, kita cukup kerepotan juga di tahun 2020 ini. Kemudian apa yang kita lakukan untuk hal ini? Next, Pak. Oke. Kita ya pasti ada penanggulangan yang ini boleh dibilang nih memadamkan api dulu gitu ya. Kita ya terpaksa kita stop nozzle yang seharusnya di intermediate docking itu baru ganti gitu ya. Ini sudah rusak duluan gitu. Jadi kita terpaksa kita stop dulu. Kemudian kita kalau yang kita bisa kita perbaiki. Kemudian perawatan filter. Jadi yang biasanya fuel oil filter dari 15 hari, kemudian kita bersihkan di 3 hari. 3 hari harus kita sudah cek dan kita bersihkan. Nah, kemudian berikutnya kita coba ganti spek filternya ya, yang dari tank menuju engine yang sebelumnya 30 mikron kita kecilin lagi menjadi 10 mikron. Gitu, kita kecilin menjadi 10 mikron sehingga next Pak. Next. Nah, dengan kita ganti Pak filter yang 30 mikron ke 10 mikron, ya, ini hasilnya bisa kita lihat yang apa namanya, yang particle count tadi, yang paling bawah yang warna merah, ya, yang sebelumnya itu ada partikel yang 4 mikron itu yang 13.000 turun ke 2.000 gitu ya. Nah, ini turun semua gitu. Sehingga kemudian water content-nya juga jadi turun. Terus sebelah kanan nih Pak, particle count clean nanti di TB Patra 3 nih. Itu juga turun dan bisa berjalan lancar. Sebelumnya pernah juga kita engine black mati gitu pada saat operasional. Ya untung aja kemarin nggak nyamber rumah penduduk gitu ya. Ternyata yang problem-problem tadi sempat kita pada saat operasional engine tiba-tiba mati gitu. Sehingga sekarang solusi yang kita lakukan memang cukup sederhana sih, cuma mengganti filter yang 30 mikron ke 10 mikron itu, dan hasilnya juga cukup baik. Namun, next Pak. Next. Namun memang secara repair cost itu memang lebih naik jadinya ya. Penggantian untuk filter yang 10 mikron ini itu hampir 2 kali Pak. Itu ya, hampir 2 kali pergantiannya. Jadi sebenarnya yang kita lakukan hanya itu. Namun kami di Patria Maritim lain ya sepakat bahwa ya program P30 ini ya tetap kita dukung lah gitu ya. Karena program ini dampak multiplier-nya tuh cukup banyak gitu ya. Pertama ya kita yang seperti tadi di depan juga sudah kita sebutkan ya, kalau kita sebutkan kembali gitu ya, memenuhi komitmen pemerintah untuk mengurangi emisi gas rumah kaca, meningkatkan ketahanan kemandirian energi, stabilisasi harga CPO, meningkatkan nilai tambah melalui hilirisasi industri kelapa sawit, memenuhi target 23% kontribusi energi baru terbarukan, mengurangi konsumsi dan impor BBM, memperbaiki defisit neraca perdagangan. Jadi demikian Bapak dan Ibu sekilas presentasi mengenai penggunaan B30 di Patria Maritim lain, dan kami tetap berkomitmen juga sejalan dengan pemerintah akan mendukung program ini. Demikian, terima kasih Bapak-Bapak. Selamat siang.
Terima kasih Pak Nyoman atas paparannya ya, cukup singkat dan padat gitu Pak. Untuk selanjutnya saya akan tampilkan dulu. Oke, untuk selanjutnya dari speakernya Pak Rizky. Pak Rizky adalah Fleet Manager PT Pan Maritime Wira Pawitra, dan sebelumnya juga bergerak ya di bidang shipping line juga di Armada Bumi Pertiwi Line sebagai Technical Purchasing. Setelah itu Technical Coordinator di Bluebird Group, dan beliau adalah dan edukasinya juga S1 ya, teknik mesin. Pak Rizky, kopi Pak, apakah Bapak di sana Pak?
Kopi Pak.
Oh, Pak Rizky, waktu dan tempat silakan Pak.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Rowan. Oke. Selamat siang Bapak-Bapak semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan nama saya Prabu Sabta Rizky. Oke, sorry. for ladies and gentlemen, I doing a presentation in bahasa. Saya bekerja di PT Pan Maritim Wirapawitra sejak tahun 1999. Mungkin saya langsung ke presentasi kami ya Pak ya.
Oke Pak.
Saya share sendiri atau gimana Pak?
Boleh Pak.
Oke. Kelihatan Pak?
Jelas Pak.
Oke. Bapak-bapak dan ibu-ibu sekalian, kami PT Pan Maritim Wirapawitra adalah perusahaan lokal company. Jadi kita bergerak di bidang pelayaran, khususnya kapal-kapal offshore support, Pak ya. Offshore support untuk transportasi kru dan material spesialis untuk kapal-kapal kecepatan tinggi. Jadi mungkin ini yang akan saya presentasikan, nomor satu tentang profil kami. Terus nanti ada sedikit pengertian tentang biodiesel. Mungkin sebagian besar sudah dijelaskan tadi oleh Pak Nyoman. Ya mungkin nanti sedikit saya ulas sedikit tentang terutama tentang SK Dirjen Migas tentang B30, terus karakteristik biodiesel dan inspeksi serta pemeliharaan preventif kami. Terus terang buat kami Pak, B30 ini cukup bukan mengganggu sih, saya bilang cukup mengakibatkan masalah ya buat kami karena kami ini bergerak khusus kapal-kapal yang memang berkecepatan tinggi sehingga RPM itu putaran engine itu benar-benar harus kita maintain, jadi tidak boleh turun atau drop sehingga efeknya nanti mengakibatkan kecepatan kapal akan turun. Biasanya penumpang kami ini adalah para pekerja offshore yang memang biasanya mereka sudah, apalagi yang akan crew change ya, yang akan pulang. Biasanya kalau yang akan berangkat biasanya nggak terlalu masalah, yang akan pulang tuh mereka biasanya sudah punya tiket pulang, connecting flight, connecting kereta api, sehingga benar-benar kalau kita terlambat ataupun problem di engine kita, ya mereka pasti akan komplain ke kita karena mereka akan ketinggalan pesawat atau ketinggalan kereta. Nah sehingga buat kami ini jadi sedikit tantangan ya Pak, karena memang B30 ini mau nggak mau kita terima sehingga ini bisa kita harus tetap bisa jalan dengan kondisi B30 sehingga strategik yang harus kita terapkan nanti akan kami coba share di sini. Oke Pak, kami kapal kami itu mulai dari 35 sampai 50 meter panjang dan berpenumpang mulai 60 dan terbesar kami ada 200 penumpang. Horsepower engine kita dari mulai 1.500 sampai di 7.000 horsepower. Nah, engine kita itu ada 4 engine utama Pak yang terutama yang kita miliki. Pertama Caterpillar dari mulai tipe C4.4, C6.6, C32, C32 Assert atau yang paling besar kita punya 3512C. Ini semua electronic engine Pak. Jadi istilahnya kalau untuk kita calibration nozzle atau calibration injection pump udah nggak agak sulit lah di Indonesia sehingga kita terpaksa biasanya kita remanufacture part ya via engine maker. Terus kita punya MTU engine 8V183 dan 12V396. Jadi mungkin ini 396 ini classic engine juga ya, ini mungkin masih mechanical engine. Terus kita ada Cummins Kios K19 ini electronic engine dan 6CT ini mechanical engine. Terus kita punya engine klasik lagi yang memang dari tahun 80-an ini ada kapal-kapal kita tahun 80 dengan Detroit diesel engine 2 stroke. Kita punya 371, 16V92 sama 12V71. Jadi ini engine yang kita pakai. Kita lanjut Pak. Ini kantor pusat kami di Jalan Tanjung Barat nomor 7 Pasar Minggu. Kita lanjut, biodiesel mungkin tadi sudah sedikit dijelaskan oleh Pak Nyoman juga bahwa biodiesel itu adalah hasil esterifikasi, transesterifikasi dari nabati ya. Jadi sehingga memang ini buat kita sedikit bermasalah untuk terutama kondisi asam lemak ini ya. Jadi asam lemak ini bisa mengakibatkan banyaknya kandungan ya terutama kotoran ya, atau tadi yang mungkin disampaikan oleh Pak Nyoman juga bahwa tingkat kebersihannya memang sangat berpengaruh di performance fuel tersebut. Mungkin saya bisa lanjut next. Nah, ini yang mungkin akan kita coba share ya Pak ya. Ini dari SK Dirjen Migas terakhir 11 November 2019 bahwa untuk B30 itu mereka per 1 Januari 2021 akan memaksimalkan batasan sulfur konten ya di 500 ppm. Terus terang saya sendiri belum pernah menguji semenjak tahun 2021 ini apakah memang B30 ini sudah berada di sulfur konten 500 ppm atau 0,05%, karena dari SK tersebut per 1 Januari 2021 sulfur konten harus berada di 0,05%. Karena ini memang buat kita agak sedikit menurunkan cost terutama untuk mesin-mesin putaran tinggi ya. Memang sulfur konten ini cukup berpengaruh terutama untuk penggunaan lube oil yang memang sedikit bisa menambah waktu pakai ya, karena biasanya memang lube oil itu kita ganti karena total base number-nya sudah atau TBN-nya sudah separuh dari standarnya, sehingga kandungan sulfur rendah ini akan memperlambat penurunan dari total base number yang ada di lube oil tersebut. Saya lanjut Pak, apa sih karakteristik di biodiesel ini? Pertama, biodiesel dapat melarutkan kotoran atau sludge yang ada di tangki. Sehingga pada saat penggunaan pertama kali B30 itu kami memastikan bahwa agar tangki dalam kondisi yang bersih. Kedua, biodiesel itu mempengaruhi material elastomer ya, seperti karet, seal, dan segala macam. Memang dia sangat mempengaruhi sehingga seal ini cenderung lebih cepat bocor ya atau rusak jika di fuel line ya, terutama jika kita menggunakan B30. Nah, kedua, produk biodiesel ini hanya bisa disimpan maksimal 3 bulan ya. Mungkin teman-teman atau yang memang kapalnya tidak jalan dalam jangka waktu lama atau light up ya istilahnya, mungkin perlu diwaspadai ini. Jadi sebelum start engine setelah light up itu kondisi biodieselnya mungkin jangan langsung dipakai ya, mungkin di cleaning atau disirkulasi dulu ke purifier ataupun kita bawa ke lab dulu. Karena apa? Resikonya pada saat biodiesel ini sudah cukup banyak kontaminasi oksidasinya, itu akan kadar airnya akan cukup tinggi ya, terus sludge-nya akan tinggi sehingga akan merusak di fuel system tadi, dari mulai injection pump sampai ke injektor terutama. Jadi kita berharap sih kalau sudah kita punya menyimpan biodiesel, ya udah pakai biodiesel atau bunkering dengan biodiesel, jangan disimpan lama, dipakai segera sampai habis. Nah itu juga tadi biodiesel juga punya kontaminasi mikroba yang cepat ya, sehingga resiko korosi, filter tersumbat ya, terus air di dasar tangki itu cepat sekali timbul ya di biodiesel. Lanjut, Terus biodiesel itu juga berpengaruh untuk material-material tangki yang kurang compatible ya, seperti copper, alloy brass, bronze, lead, tin, atau zinc. Jadi kalau tangki-tangkinya material tersebut ada resiko tergerus atau terabrasi oleh biodiesel. Jadi memang kebetulan kapal kami semua full aluminium, sehingga memang aluminium aluminium tank itu kita waspadai juga untuk selalu kita periksa jangan sampai terabrasi oleh biodiesel. Selanjutnya kalau biodiesel juga B30 juga memiliki energi konten yang rendah, sehingga konsumsinya otomatis naik dari mulai 1 sampai 4%. Kita lanjut Pak, untuk inspeksi. Kami di Pan Maritim mempunyai inspeksi rutin Pak. Jadi pertama kami sampai hari ini belum merubah sistem filtration kami. Memang kami ada filter primary dan secondary. Biasa primary itu kita masih pakai yang 30 mikron, sampai hari ini belum kita kita ganti. Cuman memang secondary-nya biasanya sebelumnya kita di 250 jam kerja, memang secondary ini biasanya terlihat kalau udah di atas 125 jam itu nanti low pressure fuel-nya itu akan turun otomatis, sehingga mungkin di secondary ini kita akan ganti atau kita turunkan masa kerjanya di 125 jam kerja, sehingga otomatis pembelian filter secondary kita bertambah. Ini yang mungkin fuel line schematic Pak, ya ini yang mungkin sering terjadi kerusakan kalau kita menggunakan B30, pertama di daerah fuel transport pump atau fuel pump ya, terus kita ke secondary filter, di sini baru kita ke injektor ya. Nah ini yang memang sering kita ganti ini di fuel secondary ini, karena ini memang cukup umurnya cukup cepat, karena memang pengaruh tadi kotoran yang banyak di B30. Nah ini Pak, strategi kami selanjutnya, kami pastikan memang semua proses transfer dari tangki storage ke daily tank itu kita menggunakan fuel purifier. Jadi kita pastikan semua fuel purifier kita bekerja normal, minimal pada saat fuel transfer dari fuel storage ke daily tank itu air, kotoran maupun mikroba itu bisa terurai atau terpisah dari fuelnya. Terus baru dari daily tank kita baru pakai untuk ke engine melalui primary dan secondary filter. Selanjutnya inspeksi yang kami lakukan, kru kami order ya, atau kami minta untuk melakukan cek kadar air ya, menggunakan pasta air minimal 1 hari sekali ya. Itu sounding, biasanya mereka memang setiap jam 12 malam harus bikin remaining on board, sekaligus kita minta mereka untuk cek dengan color check apakah pasta air, apakah kandungan air itu cukup banyak di dalam tangki, sehingga kita bisa antisipasi. Terus pembuangan cerat air Pak, yang memang kita lakukan kalau bisa 1 hari sekali. Biasa di daily tank itu ada cerat air Pak, jadi pastikan teman-teman setiap pagi itu ada cerat airnya dibuang, sehingga tidak ada air yang terbawa sampai ke engine. Selanjutnya untuk pemeliharaan preventif Pak, kami ada beberapa test kit ya di pasaran yang untuk memastikan mengecek ya pertumbuhan mikroba secara visual. Jadi itu ada di pasaran, ada Fuel Start atau Kitty yang mereka punya test kit untuk mikroba. Terus preventive maintenance kami juga lakukan minimal cleaning tangki bahan bakar ya Pak, maupun di storage maupun di tangki harian itu minimal setiap 3 bulan. Jadi setiap 3 bulan sekali ada waktu perlu untuk bisa melakukan cleaning, sehingga minimal sludge atau air bisa segera dibersihkan. Terus pengujian lab Pak, jadi secara rutin memang kami seperti yang Pak Nyoman juga tadi lakukan, bahwa kami memastikan nomor satu partikel count-nya. Partikel count kita lihat apakah masih di bawah atau memang di atas standar. Ya memang sampai hari ini kalau kita ambil sebelum purifier, pasti partikel count-nya itu di atas standar Pak. Jadi kami pastikan kita menggunakan fuel purifier dengan ini kami bandingkan Pak ya. Jadi sebelum purifier itu kalau kita ambil partikel count itu sesuai ISO 4406 itu bisa di atas 7.000 ya Pak ya. Tapi setelah melewati purifier kita ambil sampel itu yang untuk 4 mikronnya hanya sekitar 865. Jadi standarnya tadi 2000 ya maksimal, jadi jauh di bawah standar. Sehingga menurut kami penggunaan fuel purifier saat transfer dari tangki tangki simpan ke tangki harian itu sangat bermanfaat dan bisa mengurangi tingkat atau bisa menambah ya tingkat kebersihan dari B30 tersebut. Ini bisa saya sampaikan di sini Pak. Jadi pembandingannya diambil sebelum purifier dan setelah purifier, sehingga istilahnya penggunaan fuel filter juga bisa kita tetap pakai ya, terutama untuk di primary. Primary itu biasanya buat nangkap air juga, dan di secondary aja yang memang kita jam kerjanya yang kita kurangi. Terus selanjutnya kita menggunakan fuel additive Pak. Ini juga nggak selalu ya kita pakai. Memang biasanya kita lakukan fuel additive itu jika kapal akan light up Pak biasanya. Kita akan light up. Nah itu biasanya kita mau simpan fuelnya cukup lama, 1 bulan gitu kurang lebih. Nah biasanya kita akan kasih fuel additive yang fungsinya utamanya untuk menghambat laju pertumbuhan mikroba dan menghambat proses oksidasi. Nah, biasanya fuel additive itu mungkin ini ada namanya split tech micro biocide ya. Ini yang buat kami cukup efektif ya, karena memang biasanya sebelum light up itu kita coba kasih sesuai takaran ya, nggak salah kita 1:100 ya kalau nggak salah. Jadi kita ada satu ton ya kita kasih sekitar 10 liter Pak. Jadi itu yang kita gunakan Pak untuk terutama jika solar tersebut atau B3 tersebut akan kita simpan dalam jangka waktu lama. Itu yang kami lakukan Pak di Pan Maritim. Demikian Pak yang bisa kami sampaikan. Kalau memang ada kesalahan atau kekurangan ya kami mohon maaf. Mungkin bisa kami kembali ke Bapak Moderator, Pak Roland. Terima kasih Pak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak. Bisa di close Pak?
Oke, saya close Pak. Sorry.
Terima kasih Pak Rizky atas paparannya. Kalau saya lihat dari chat itu pertanyaannya ini kayaknya udah nggak sabaran nih. Udah panjang banget ya kalau saya lihat ya. Oke, tapi kita masih ada 3 narasumber ya. 3 narasumber ini juga bisa sharing knowledge nih dari bukan dari Indonesia tapi dari Singapura. Jadi ke depan 3 presenter ini akan memaparkan ya dalam bahasa Inggris. Oke, next speaker kita. Oke, ini speaker kita Kon Waiseng, Mr. Kon Waiseng dari ExxonMobil Marine Lubricant South Asia Pacific, jabatan sebagai Engineer Service Manager. Jadi sebelum ini beliau juga sudah merambah di industri FMC Technologies, mulai dari desain, manufacturing, project, sampai instalasi. Nah, Mr. Waiseng juga telah ya bergabung di ExxonMobil mulai tahun 2016 dan telah melakukan supporting ya kepada technical services di seluruh South Asia Pacific dan termasuk juga Indonesia. Oke, Mr. Waiseng, are you ready?
Yep. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna speak in English. I do understand Bahasa, but I cannot speak as fluently. Yeah. So I'm Waiseng. I'm the engineering service manager in South Asia Pacific for ExxonMobil. So very happy today to be here to share ExxonMobil's views on biodiesel and its impact to ship owners like yourself. Okay. Okay, no surprise. Most of you already know biodiesel is not new to Indonesia. I think just now we saw, it all started with B5, B8, 10, 15, and most recently in 2018, it was B20. And then in 2020, it went to B30. And I think there's even talks about going to B40, B100. So all the issues that was talked about earlier, just imagine if it become B40, B100, you're going to need to deal with it even more intensely in the. What I want to say is also, Indonesia is leading the world in terms of biodiesel use and experience. If you compare with, for example, in Europe, regulation in Europe only needs bio content up to 7%. Very low compared to Indonesia, up to 30%. And another comparison is, in Europe, the source of the biodiesel is coming from things like soybean, rapeseed, which is different from Indonesia, which is palm oil. So I want you to keep that in mind because whether it comes from soybean, rapeseed, or palm oil, it affects the characteristic of the fuel. There's some differences there. Okay. So looking at what exactly is B30 in Indonesia. So essentially what you have is the FAME, the fatty acid methyl ester, coming from palm oil, making up 30%. And then you have the petrodiesel making up 70%. So why this is the case, we can talk about it. It helps boost the local palm oil industry. It helps ensure Indonesia has a secure source of fuel because you're producing it locally. And it also helps, somewhat helps the environment because using biofuels kind of reduce the emissions compared to using conventional petrodiesel. But there are challenges when you're using biodiesel because when it is exposed to things like air, water, and heat, the biodiesel, the FAME content, fatty acid methyl ester, breaks down to form acids, ketones, and other components. So this leads to a lot of the issues that the earlier presenters talk about as well: the storage stability, corrosion, sludge filter plugging, and so on. Okay. So now let me talk about some of the other issues that can come from this. Now, fuel dilution is caused by excess unburned fuel mixing with the engine oil in the crankcase. Okay. Now, fuel dilution cannot be avoided. In every engine, there's going to be some amount of fuel dilution because it's not possible to have a perfect seal. Okay. So even if you're using a pure diesel fuel, you will have some fuel dilution. Okay. Now the key is you want to minimize having too much fuel in the engine oil because it's not good, as we all know. Now here you can see a list of all the possible issues if you're diluting your engine oil. So you have reduction in viscosity. You also will dilute away the additives in your oil, right? So let's say if my oil, I have 100 of this additive. Now if I put 1% fuel, 2% fuel, I will dilute away this 100 additive that I have, he will progressively become less and less. So my engine oil can no longer do the job that it was meant to do because it is diluted away. Okay. Then the flame content also causes increased oxidation in the lubricant, and because of the viscosity differences, it also washes away the lubricant film between the liner and the piston. So when you combine all this, it actually increases the wear in the engine. Okay. So if you look on the right side over here, excessive fuel dilution can be caused by a few things. Okay. If, for example, if your fuel injector is not working properly, then you end up having some very poor combustion, and the fuel will just flow into the crankcase. Okay. And another thing over here, you see like your liners and piston ring. If your liner and piston ring is worn out, then again you're not having a proper seal form, and combustion maybe is not so good. Then again, the fuel will just slide right through. Maybe not everything, some will combust, but some will go slide right through and go into your crankcase. Okay. There could be incomplete combustion if, for example, you see here, cold start idling. So if your ships, you keep your engine on, you're not going anywhere very frequent, you do a lot of idling, then yes, your engine is running, the fuel is not being combusted fully. Again, not going anywhere, it will just flow down to your crankcase. So various issues can be caused, and here are the various causes of the excessive fuel dilution. Okay, so here I talk about fuel dilution which cannot be avoided, right? Because whether you're using diesel, you will still get fuel dilution. But why is this bad when we are using biodiesel? Okay, so here, look at the top right, what I've circled here. Okay, this is a study by Cummins and Chevron Oronite. Oronite is an additive company. So it says that fuel dilution rate in the case of B20 is approximately 40% higher than using diesel. So you have an issue that cannot be avoided. And if you're using a biofuel, you're getting more dilution. Why is that so? I'll talk a bit about that. Why does this happen? So first point you want to look at is look at this table down here. Okay, look at the viscosity here. Okay, so you have a high-speed diesel. The viscosity is a bit lower, and here you have a B100. The viscosity is shown to be a bit higher on average. Now, when you have the viscosity that is a bit higher, that means your fuel injector is trying to do its job, right? It's trying to atomize your fuel. But when your viscosity is a bit higher, that means it's a bit more difficult, even though it's within your engine maker spec, but it's a bit more difficult to atomize, making it a bit more difficult to get a complete combustion from that effect. Okay. And you look at this picture lower down here, may not be very clear, but if you look at this B20 picture, is a bit darker, and whereas the one using high-speed diesel is a bit clearer and cleaner. So that means you get more of this deposit building up on your injector when you're using the bio component, right? Okay. Now the second part is look at this graph on the lower left here. Okay. Now this is a distillation curve of diesel and the ester B100. Now, what this graph is trying to say is that the B100, the bio component, has a higher boiling point. Okay, higher boiling point. So what does that mean for you? So now imagine, now every engine will have fuel dilution. The fuel go in, but because the diesel has a lower boiling point, when it goes down, some of it may vaporize and exit your oil and go somewhere else. But because the bio component has a higher boiling point, it cannot vaporize so easily. So more of it will stay in your engine oil to affect your oil performance. Okay. So yeah, so I think I talked about all the things in this page. Okay, so now let me move on over here. Okay. Yeah, so I already talked about effects of fuel dilution, such as lowering the viscosity, diluting additives. Now, when it comes to biodiesel, there are additional impacts. Okay. Now there are there are anti-wear additives in the oil, which will form a protective coating between your moving surfaces, basically your piston and your liners, okay? Now with biodiesel, it can potentially disrupt this layer that's forming, okay? And the biodiesel can also react with the lubricant to accelerate its breakdown and oxidation, okay? And some points here, biodiesel is known to corrode metals such as copper, brass, lead, and so on. And it is not compatible with some types of seals, okay? So seal materials such as nitrile, 6,6 nylon. So I have encountered some customers where they started experiencing leakage in their engine. And I think, you know, we have to consider the fact, you know, are all your seals in your engine compatible with biodiesel, okay, when it's exposed to it? And biodiesel can also lead to a worse formation of sludge, okay? Okay. Now, the next point I'm going to talk about will be the graph on the lower right, okay? Now, when, and it's related to storage time. So earlier, some of the speakers says you cannot store biodiesel for more than 3 months. Of course, it's not a hard deadline, huh? You know, so the longer you store, the worse it will get. Okay, so let me explain what these 3 lines are actually here. Okay, so you see this this purple line here. So this purple line is a B100 aged. B100 aged. So that means I took a B100 and I aged it. I let it sit for, you know, weeks, months, or whatever the duration. Okay. Now this blue line is B100 fresh. So that means I got a B100 fresh, I start using it. And the green line is diesel. So now this axis is how much of it that you put in, and this is a wear measurement. So what you see is actually, if you're using a fresh biofuel, is quite similar to diesel. It is not going to cause so much difference in the wear. You see, the wear is all around, you know, this, when you measure the micrometer, it's all around this 200, 150, 200 plus range. But when you let the biodiesel age, then the fuel itself has deteriorated and the wear will increase. The more dose you have it, the wear will increase. So if and here's the thing, you know, if your oil drain interval normally is, let's say, you know, 250 hours, let's say, and then you're using a biofuel that you just freshly bought. Maybe it works when it's just freshly bought, but if this fuel you kept it for 6 months and you're still using it, on the 6th month, it's going to be worse than on the 1st month that you're using this biofuel, because the longer you keep, then the more it has deteriorated over time. Okay. Okay. So now let me move on. Yeah. So some of the symptoms of a B30 use, you know, you can check for, you know, is your engine having any smoke? The smoke means there's some incomplete combustion, so there's smoke coming out. You can check for the oil viscosity in your crankcase. If the oil is going down, that means it's being diluted by some kind of a fuel. Accelerated oil degradation. This one, you really need a use oil analysis to pick up whether there's any oxidation happening. Formation of deposits. So this one is really down to, you need to inspect your engine, you know, during the overhaul to see if there's any additional buildup of deposits, or do you need to change out your injectors, or, you know, some other maintenance steps that you need to do. Increase corrosion and wear. This one, partly you can do it during inspection or through use oil analysis to pick up, is the iron levels, you know, picking up, or anything like that. Okay, so yeah. So let's talk about what you can do. These are some of the preventive steps. So firstly, you need to ensure that your seals are compatible with biodiesel. If you look at this here, I have a table that shows, you know, the type of material, and different material has a different level of compatibility. So some materials, like over here, you know, when you put biodiesel, there's a little change. But there's others where the biodiesel will cause it to, you know, the hardness will change, the volume will increase because it will swell, and so on. Okay. Next one is avoid exposing your biodiesel to significant oxidation. So as best as possible, keep the fuel, the oil sump sealed, and avoid exposure to light. Okay, and do not store the biodiesel blend for too long. I think the earlier presenters also said that not longer than 3 months, and I think that's a good guide because the biodiesel can retain water and can lead to microbial growth. Okay, so depending on how bad the situation, you can also consider using a higher performing lubricant because, like I said just now, if I have 100 lubricant, 100 additive in my oil and you dilute it, then it reduces the performance, right? Now, if I put a better performing oil, so here I have like CF4, CI4, each is progressively better in these kind of properties, soot protection, oxidative. So it can help, if the situation is really bad that, your oil cannot really last very long, you probably need to move up to a better oil grade to ensure that your oil lasts long enough to protect your engine. Okay. Yeah, and you also probably need to consider what you can do on board. So over on the right here, you see there's this thing called the flow stick. So the flow stick is something for you to compare viscosity on board. You take a used oil and you take the fresh oil and you tilt it and you see how much it flows. So if it flows too much, you know that there's some dilution happening. The viscosity is too low. You probably need to change your oil already by then. So don't risk it. Okay. Conduct regular inspection. Check for fuel injector for deposits, for engine wear, and all the other good stuff. And of course, reach out to your OEM and oil supplier for any guidance if you have any issues. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I will share, at least what ExxonMobil has done. So for us, we do have like the Mobil Guard HSD grade meant for high-speed engines. And, earlier I said, you cannot just keep diluting with fuel and expect the lubricant to do its job. But at the very least, what we've done with the Mobil Guard HSD is that we've tested it with, this is a European standard, CECL 109-14. But what we've done is we modify the test. The European standard makes you test it with soybean and rapeseed. We modify the test to test our product with palm oil B100 up to 7% to make sure that it still meets the limit of this European standard, in terms of viscosity change, oxidation, and so on. So, and it passed the test. So we're very happy that, the product that we have for the marine sector is fit for the, biodiesel use. And we've also launched a lab in Indonesia because a lot of the issues I said just now, you can detect it with oil analysis. And it's one of the steps. You need to do an oil analysis to make sure you pick up the issues before it happens. And if there's any investigative work, try to get to the bottom of it. Do you need to change your injectors? Do you need to change your seals, and solve that? Yeah, so I think coming to the summary, biodiesel can lead to a lot of issues, unavoidable issue, but with biodiesel use, it's worse than with pure diesel use. So there are preventive steps you can use, and you just need to do constant monitoring, do your use analysis. And if you have any issues, happy to help and support in this case, reaching out to us or our distributors that will have worked very closely with us. Okay, thank you everyone. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Miss. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Weising,
Sure.
for your presentations. Oke, jadi tadi kita udah lihat ya banyak solusi-solusi dari setiap speaker mempunyai solusi yang berbeda. Jadi kalau kita lihat yang pertama ya dari Pak Nyoman itu ganti lebih filter. Kalau dari Pak Rizky tadi lebih ke draining ya, sering-sering drain mesin. Langsung ada juga solusi dari sisi lubricant. Dan next-nya ini kita coba mengundang ya speaker dari sisi aditif ya. Oke, saya coba perkenalkan dulu speaker kita. Next speaker kita ini dari Singapura juga, is Mr. Martin Chu. So Mr. Martin is a marine engineer by professions and started his sailing career with Neptune Orient Lines and later American Eagle Tankers. He's been in Lloyd's Register also as a surveyor, joined Rigma Ship Management, Singapore, and in 2014 as a marine technical sales manager for Asia Pacific Innospec, and currently is the role is a Marines regional sales manager for Asia Pacific Innospec. Okay, Mr. Martin, are you ready, Mr. Martin? Mr.
Yeah,
Martin.
hello. Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to find the mute button. Yeah, thank you. Can I share my presentation first?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Selamat sore, Bapak Ibu. Actually, I can speak Bahasa, but I don't think you guys can understand me if I do the presentation in Bahasa. So let me get if you don't mind. Can you see my screen? Hello? Can you see my screen?
It's clear.
Yeah?
It's clear.
It's clear.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the having us here, Olan. Just move on. I'll talk about impact of biofuels and LSFO. The agenda that I'd like to cover here is going to be a little bit of background on IMO legislation on low sulfur fuel and biofuel. I think it's good to know the background a bit. Of course, some of the previous presenters have done so as well. I think you are not seeing all the bad things because those people that is actually using low sulfur fuel outside Indonesia, probably they are facing the similar problem as well. So that is why we are here. Okay, I'd like to also share with you guys what are the issues that we have actually experienced with the biofuel. Like some of the presenters previously have said what they have experienced. I think in fact biofuel is not something very new, but it's relatively new, I would say, for the marine industry. A little bit on LSFO as well. So you can see that what other people are facing, even they are not using biofuel. We'll share with you what are the solutions that is possible, available for you, and what are the other benefits. I did recall that some of you did mention that biofuel have got a lower energy level. You will probably see a higher fuel consumption. And today everybody is looking at greenhouse gas reduction, carbon footprint. Maybe fuel treatment chemical is also one solution. This is myself, but Roland already did. Thank you very much. Okay, a little bit of background. I'm not sure if this option. Yeah, I believe all of you know that globally in IMO, meaning to say that that vessel that is operating outside the Indonesian water, they will need to comply with this legislation back in 2020. Anywhere you go around the world, if you are outside Indonesian water, you need to consume a fuel that has got less than 0.5% sulfur. And then if you are operating in areas like ECA, emission control area, from 2015, the limit is actually 0.1. Okay, my phone has not been ringing the whole day. This is the first time. I'm sorry about that. If you look at this emission area control area, basically it's the one that is highlighted in the dark blue. These are the emission control area, 200 nautical miles of USA, Europe. These are the areas where you need to use 0.1 and below. Yeah, the rest of the areas are actually 0.5, except in Indonesia where you have the local legislation to use biofuel. Okay, the only time when you can actually use a fuel that has got more than 0.5% sulfur is when the ship is fitted with something called exhaust gas abatement technology, or in a short called scrubber. Okay, I'm going to talk about biofuels. I'm sure all of you already know, mandated by the government to use for local shipping, B30. Again, IMO. Okay, usage of biofuel today are only mainly on trawls. Okay, why is it so? Because there's also a study biofuel can actually cause an increase in NOx, NOx. Yeah. So today, MAPOL Annex 6 regulation, which is with regards to emission, yeah, they say that regulation 18.32 that fuels shall be blends of hydrocarbon to be free from inorganic acids, blah, 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 chemical waste, and should not jeopardize the safety of the ship. And one of the reasons is because during the trial of the ship, when you have your MAPOL Annex 6 NOx certification, the ship was actually tested using hydrocarbon fuel. That's not biofuel. So vessel must apply for exemption certificate for trial purpose only from flag state MAPOL Annex 6 Regulation 3.2. So today, if you look at all the ship outside the world that is using biofuel, they actually need to go to the flag for this exemption. And it's only allowed to use for a certain period, unlike Indonesia. Okay, usage of trials of biofuel today is mainly driven by, of course, again, greenhouse gas emission or CO2 emission, because biofuel is considered renewable energy, and it is believed to emit XX percentage of less CO2, which is good. I think the direction that the industry is going to as well. Maybe Indonesia is the one leading it. Okay, so I've actually taken a few slides from the media. You can see here, Ocean Network, one of the very big company in the Japanese company based in Singapore. You can see here, the trial was completed. The other one, trial further demonstrates. This is also a very big company, Stenabo. You have also Oldendorf, BHP, one of the biggest commodity exporter with the German, Oldendorf. They are also doing a trial. And then, of course, you have Hawk Autoliner is also a trial. All of them is actually basically doing trials. Yeah. Okay, so what are the issues that we have seen? Okay, I think the previous presenters have also shared their experience operating. I think they're all spot on. There are a few issues. Maybe it could be due to bad blends. Prolonged storage. I think all of them did mention that you should not store it for too long. Again, how long is long? Okay, and for that you also need to see the condition where the fuel is stored as well. Okay, oxidation. I think everybody also did mention oxidation. Oxidation is a process. It's a process where it is absorbing the oxygen from the atmosphere. So this process will actually accelerate when the fuel is stored at a higher temperature. So depending, in Indonesia, it's probably not so bad. You don't really need to heat the fuel. However, you are exposed to the atmospheric temperature, depending on where you store it as well. I'll touch on that as well. Contamination. Contamination is very important. Contamination with what? Contamination can be with seawater, can be with fresh water, can be with bacteria. I will also touch on that. Okay. Naturally, I think all of us know that biofuel comes from a vegetable or renewable source. For example, soya, palm, which is mainly in Indonesia, grapeseed, wheat. All of them is actually fatty acid methyl ester, which is in Indonesia, you call it fame. So this is how it looks like. So what is the problem with vegetable, this biofuel, vegetable fuel? It comes with bacteria. So what bacteria can do is actually quite serious. Okay, these are some of the photos that we have seen before. Unstable fuel. You can see these two photos here. Sludge created by biofuel build up, being scrapped from the bottom of the tank. If you keep it for too long, I think the biofuel, if it's not blended properly, it will start to break down, and this will accelerate with the fuel. I think this is something similar, you know, when we keep our old food in the fridge. You know, for example, soup, we can see that, you know, when you drink the soup, you don't see this. When it is a bit cold, you see that the oil is starting to break down like this. Okay, and then you can see biofuel at low temperature. This is how it coagulates. And of course, this is something that I think all of you have shared before, white grease, which is suffocating the filters. I recall that some of you did mention that, yeah, all your filters are getting choked. We have also done tests to show you how we can actually minimize this as well. I'll share with you a table later. But what is the main problem with this? In shipping, clogging of filters is actually very critical. It is like our heart, where you have no blood flowing. So when you have clogging of filters like this can actually lead into starvation of fuel to the engine, and then of course your engine will stop. And of course your engine will stop. I hope you will not become like the big evergreen ship that was stuck in Suez Canal. Okay, those are the things that is mainly for stability. I will not touch on that because if I touch on that, I don't think I have enough time. Please feel free to come back to us if you have any question on that. Okay, the other one that is very interesting is actually called bacterial contamination. Where is this bacteria coming from? We said it's from the FAME. FAME is a vegetable oil. Okay, microbes cannot grow in diesel fuel alone. Water is required. You can see here, this is the bottom. This is the water. Water is always heavier than the fuel. It sits at the bottom. And then, it will reproduce and it will grow. Microbes in general live in fuel and water interface. These are the biomass. Okay, so this is the diesel fuel. This is the biomass. Okay, so it's more like a fire triangle. You need water, you need bacteria, you need diesel, and of course oxygen. Oxygen is there in the water. What you need to do is probably you need to remove the water. It is not possible if you want to remove the bacteria, you can do it as well. But the best thing is actually to remove the water. You cannot remove the diesel fuel. So I will share with you the last slide, which is how we can ensure that this is not happening on your ship. Okay, these are some of the very serious cases. It is like our skin when it is rotten or it's being attacked by some virus or bacteria. You can see this is actually going to the fuel pump. In fact, if you look at the fuel system, which is actually made of steel, all of them will be corroded. I think someone did mention as well, biofuel, when you're storing it for too long, it corrodes. But this is even worse because this is actually bacteria biomass that have actually turned this fuel to be very corrosive. Yeah, it attacks the fuel system. What you need to do is you need to flush it completely. You need to kill the bacteria before you replenish. Otherwise, the bacteria will come back. This is some of the bacteria that is at the bottom of the tank. So how do you distinguish that you have this problem? I think it's quite easy, I would say. If you open up the tank, if you smell anything like a bacteria or something that is rotting, straight away you know that this is bacteria. Otherwise, it is just purely due to stability issue. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is a filter blocking tendency. I think someone have actually asked me to put this. Okay, this is something that we have done to make sure that the fuel is stable. This product is also tested on B100. What is B100? I'm sure you know this is 100% biofuel. Of course, for 100% biofuel, the treat rate that for this product to be effective is much more higher. Okay, this liquid formulated stabilizer package can help prevent something called cold soak filter blocking tendency. In short, we call it FBT, filter blocking tendency, for all bio blends, meaning to say from B10, B30. Okay, we have got a lot of samples of B7 because, like I think what Wong Ko was saying, I think in marine today we are only limited to actually B7. Most of the marine gas oil that we have today, they are limited to B7. So if you test the base fuel, you can see that all the filter blocking tendency is above 1. So what we are trying to achieve is as close as lower as possible. So here you can see that base fuel with the stabilizer, the index have actually gone down to close to 1, which is better than previously. So if you see the number here on the right is actually the treatment dosage, how much ppm that you need to put it to achieve this result. Yeah. So with this result, you will not see so much of filter clogging. So I know some of your ship, those supply vessels and offshore supply vessels, you are using disposable filters. Those filters are quite expensive. Unlike the bigger ship where they have filters where the meshes can be cleaned easily. Yeah. Okay, best practice for biofuel. This is from many years of experience. I think it's quite straightforward because biofuel has been used not in the marine industry, in land application for a long time. Okay, avoid prolonged storage. I think many of us did mention that it's actually 90 days, but I would say it's around 30 days. Of course, it also depends on the condition, how it is being stored. The best practice is, I would say, if you have first in, first out, meaning to say, if you have a few bunker tanks, you need to make sure that the older bunker tanks are being consumed first. Of course, easy to say 30 days. I know in ship operation, it is sometimes not even possible, not even 30 days, not even 90 days. Yeah. So when you store the biofuel, you need to make sure that it is not heated. In your case, you don't need heating, but you need to also see that the adjacent compartment is not heated. For some of the ship, it is very critical because some of the ship are carrying some other fuel, or maybe some other fuel that requires heating. So if you're heating the other compartment, the heat is being transferred to this tank with biofuel. So heating accelerates the oxidation issue. So we try not to do that. Yeah. Okay, good housekeeping. What do we mean by good housekeeping? You need to minimize the water contamination. You need to drain the water as far as possible. Okay, in the past, we don't really drain, diesel tanks. Those of you that have been on bigger ships, we drain a lot of heavy fuel tanks. We don't drain diesel tanks because we think that there's no water there. But in our condition, there's actually a lot of condensation. What you need to do is minimize the water. If you can't do all this, then there's one more thing you can do is you can actually use biocide to prevent all this happening. Yeah. This is the last, I would say, last measure. If you think that you're going to store it for too long, you can use a stabilizer and a biocide to kill the bacteria. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to touch a little bit on the IMO compliant fuel. This is only a few slides, probably a good thing for you to know, because if you're not the only one suffering from biofuel, all these people are having even more problem. Okay, IMO 2020 fuel, VLSFO, biggest problem in unstable fuel. Unstable fuel can be due to 3 issues. Asphaltene is unstable. Again, asphaltene is the black stuff that clogs the filter. Second thing is also oxidation of distillates. So oxidation is something that don't go away in fuel. Same like your biofuel, all kind of fuel goes through this process of oxidation. So when you have oxidation stability, you have again clogging of filters. Yeah, and then you have also waxing. Today, VLSFO is even worse. It is very similar to what you saw on your filters, but this is waxing. This is due to low temperature. So here, waxing, you need to manage it by heating it again. But when you heat it, you have this number 2 problem. Okay, last but not least, we have also seen a poor combustion of VLSFO that have caused premature engine damages, liner breaking, and piston ring breakings. Okay, this is what you see. So you don't see the black stuff, you see the white stuff. I think the white stuff is still better because it is not so dirty. You look at this guy, the filters are clogged. This is hard as asphalt. This is called asphaltenes. Yeah. Okay, distillation. Oxidation of distillate, same thing. Yeah, you can see. Even your biofuel, if you don't have biofuel, you still have oxidation like this. These are all sludge at the bottom. So in your case, there's actually 2. You don't know whether this sludge is coming from the biofuel or is it from the distillates, because your biofuel is actually blended with distillates. So if you look at this fuel here, is actually distillate when it is fresh, and this is a distillate when it is aged. So when it is aged, there is actually sludge as well. So what you're seeing is probably a combination. So what you do is, if you don't use any treatment, what you can do is only eliminate what are the possible problems. This is very interesting. This is wax. You can see from the appearance, it looks much like grease. It clogs the pipes. You can see that the fuel refuses to flow at a very high temperature, 95, before it starts flowing. This is crazy. Yeah. Okay, of course, we have done a lot of tests. We have done tests with some of the classification society. This is one of them. You can see here, this 2 fuel, it looks very clean, very homogeneous because it is treated. And the fuel that is not, if you look closely, you can see the particles forming. This is the one that is possible to give you all the problems that you have seen earlier. Yeah. Of course, the other problem that we have on the bigger engines is poor combustion. You can see that all the filter, the piston rings are getting carbon deposit. It should look something like this. So good thing that when you're using biofuel, I hope you're not seeing this. Okay, this is something that we do, how we want to improve what do you call it, combustion. We know that this is the estimated cetane number of what do you call it, high sulfur heavy fuel oil. This is the average estimated cetane number of MGO, which is supposed to be better. I would say biofuel will somewhere be around here as well. So the VLSFO that most of the ship are using, some of them have got VLSFO even worse than high sulfur heavy fuel oil. Many of them have something in between, and some of them are better. So this is the reason why, if you're operating with a fuel that have got estimated cetane number worse than high sulfur heavy fuel oil, that's the time when you see the combustion problem. Yeah. So what we do is we see a lot of ignition delay, and what we do is we are trying to bring back the ignition delay into good combustion with a product. Yeah. When you have ignition delay, you have something called afterburning. Afterburning is what is causing all the problem as well. So marine distillate, what are the problems with marine distillate fuel? Another type of fuel which is used mainly in ACA. So no fuel in this world that is not having problem. Okay, so I think distillate fuel, one of the main problem is lubricity, causing premature wear and tear on your fuel pump. So if you have fuel pumps like this, this is the HFRR test that I think Mr. Koh have actually talked about. So if your fuel is not having a good lubricity, if your biofuel is not having good lubricity as well, your fuel pump will end up having like this. This is something we call a premature wear and tear. Because every fuel pump is supposed to have wear and tear, but this is accelerated. Your pumps will get damaged. What is the other problem? Again, very similar. All the fuel problems look quite similar. All of them turning to become like grease. So this is actually cold flow CFPP. This is all due to waxing of a low temperature. Okay, lubricity specification is not something new. This is something that has been in automotive diesel for a long time. When did the marine industry adopted this? I think we adopted this in ISO 817-2010. Yeah, it's a long time ago. So this is what we do. Of course, when you have a HFRR of somewhere around here, which is high, what we need to do is we need to bring them down. Okay, like what you have seen earlier, the standard that we're trying to bring it down is to below 520. Yeah, so anything down here, which is good. So this is how the lubricity improver that is added to the fuel helps your fuel pump to last a bit longer. Yeah, so a solution. We have a full range of fuel that is actually able to solve this problem. Of course, when you talk about biofuel, like what I mentioned earlier, you need something to stabilize the fuel. If you're storing it for a while more, this is very important. Biocide is also very important to prevent bacterial growth and to kill all the bacteria. If you're on VLSFO, again, stability function. And then if you have combustion issue, you talk about combustion improvement. And then when you talk about marine gas oil, you talk about lubricity. And of course, if you're operating in very cold climates, not in Indonesia for sure, you don't need this because it is cold flow improver and pour point depressant to bring down your pour point. Okay, the other things that fuel treatment chemical can actually do, we are actually talking about greenhouse gas emission and carbon footprint. I think this is something that someone have mentioned. That's the reason why I added this. You know that biofuel is giving you less energy, so you actually burn more. So this is a bell that today we use to grade your ship. Okay, these are the best ships. There are only about a few % of good ships, and these are the ships. For example, this ship is falls under this category. So as the new ship is being built, the new technology is being put into shipping, this bell will actually move to the right direction. Right side. So when you move to the right direction, your ship that started from here will actually deteriorate, meaning to say this ship will actually go to F. So this is the time when you will fall off the charterer's radar, because the charterers today want to charter few ships that have got GHG or maybe A, B, C up to D. If your ship goes towards this direction, this is not what the charterer wants. Yeah, because this ship that falls here actually emits more greenhouse gas. Yeah, this bell curve, is actually for a same ship type. This is graded based on the same ship type and almost the same similar size. So there are many things that you can do to actually bring your ship towards the right direction. The last thing you want is, of course, a new ship. That's the reason why IMO is talking about 2040 and 2050 before we want to achieve the target, because we cannot expect everyone to build new ship. So there are many things that you can do. You can have propeller duct, you can have propeller bores, you can have rudder emission, you can have waste heat recovery, engine power limitation, propeller. Okay, we are working with some of the authorities that can verify that fuel treatment chemical can be actually part of the initiative that will help you reduce your emission. Okay, how much fuel treatment chemical can help? I think if you follow us from our website, I think we have done some of the tests somewhere in Europe and China in trains, automotive. I would say rule of thumb, probably about 3%. 3% is something that fuel treatment chemical can achieve to reduce your greenhouse emission. Yeah. So by improving your vessel's SFOC, your specific fuel consumption, that will help you to reduce your GHG, and that will improve your grams of CO2 per ton mile. That is the measurement that the industry is using. The ton that you carry, the mile that you travel, and the less CO2 that you emit. I think that is my last slide. Okay, for those of you that don't really know us in InnoSpec so much, these are the people that we deal with in the marine environment. You have all the big names here. And I think this is the last slide that I have. InnoSpec in marine industry, what do we do? InnoSpec, we are represented at the ISO working group. This classification, specification, your ISO 8217, 8216. I think this is the standard some of the presenters were talking about. When you are talking about marine fuel, you're talking about these two standards. So we are part of the ISO, but we do not say that the ISO have got the best standards, because today we found out that actually a lot of fuel that we see having problem are fuel that is actually meeting the standards. Yeah, like I think some of the guys have mentioned. We are also part of the International Council of Combustion Engine, CMAC Working Group 7. Some of our products, like I mentioned, are verified by the classification society like Lloyd's Register, Class NK, and we work independently even with Shell Marine. We are also represented in Singapore Shipping Association, which is the Marine Fuel Committee, the largest bunkering port in the world. This is our website. If you click this link, you will be able to find us. And for those of you that would have any question for us, I hope I still have time. This is how you can contact us. And thank you very much. Thank you, Roland. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
For your presentation. So from your presentation, we see that VLSFO fuel doesn't mean it's good, but there's also a weakness on it.
Actually, in fact, a lot.
A lot more than B30, or?
If you look at the global, of course, it is quite a bit, because every ship, many companies are spending a lot of money, even replacing liners and piston rings. So that costs them a lot of money.
Okay. Okay. So we go to the next speaker. So our next speaker is Mr. Harun. Mr. Harun Al-Rashid. So the background is serve as a petroleum tankers. Yeah, I think the same as Mr. Martin. I think Neptune Orient Lines and American Eagle tankers at various ranks. Hello. Sorry. Okay. Currently joined as a VPS. PPS, previously known as DNV, Petroleum Services. Joined as VPS in Singapore since 2006 as a technical manager. His paper also has been published by Lloyd's List, Business Times, Sea Trade Asian Week, Bunker Bulletin, Ship Bunkers, and many more. So his education is a master's degree in maritime studies from Nanyang Technology University in Singapore, and graduate diploma in maritime law and arbitration from the NUS. fellow of the Institute of Marine Engineers, Science and Technology. Okay, Mr. Harun, are you with us?
Yeah, hello. Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, Mr. Harun, if you are ready, please proceed.
Okay, let me share the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear, Mr. Harun.
Okay, thanks, Roland and your team to give me a chance in the last minute. It is 10 minutes. I will try to cover whatever I can. My topic is VLSFO. I mean, all the speaker was talking mostly on biofuel. I will, but Martin has pointed some issue on VLSFO. So I will just share some issue on VLSFO and just some comment on biofuel, because we are doing a lot of trial run with a lot of ship owners on biofuel, and the biofuel is increasing. Okay, let me see. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, Mr. Harun can see your screen. Anyway, Mr. Harun, as we are a little bit early, so you can have like 15-20 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
So need to rush.
Thanks. Okay, so VLSFO, just to give you some comparison between the last year and, between 2 months, just a trend that some of the office spec things are increasing, and this trend is actually continuing. That means we see more and more office spec cases almost every region. The sulfur, I mean, VLSFO is the sulfur is 0.5 at the ship manifold, and for the in-use sample, it is up to 0.53. So you can see that there are a number of samples actually fall within the gray area between 0.50 and 0.53. So this area, if your manifold sample is having the sulfur value, you can actually have non-compliance at a later stage if the port state take your sample and test. So just for your information. And if you see about 1% sample, actually sulfur is more than 0.53. So these are all potentially non-compliance. Wax appearance temperature. As you know, the VLSFO are thick black, so you cannot do a cloud point test on the VLSFO. You can only do the wax appearance temperature. And I think before me, Martin has already shared the wax appearance temperature. Yeah, he has also shared with you a lot of ugly picture. And no need to be so disheartened, but you need to manage it, you need to test it, you need to know what is the wax appearance temperature, and you need to maintain the temperature to avoid the wax formation. So basically, if you look at it, there is a huge portion of sample in the middle. If you see the wax appearance temperature is actually 40 to 50 or greater than 50. These are the area point of concern. When your wax appearance temperature below 40, it is easily manageable. But when it is unusually high, you may have an issue. Sometimes your vessel cannot heat up to the required temperature. Or sometimes you may carry some cargo and there is a limitation to heat up your fuel tank. So with wax appearance temperature, what I want to share with you is a very complex, because residual fuel also has asphaltene. So you imagine if you have a residual fuel and no asphaltene, there is no issue. But unfortunately, residual fuel will have asphaltene. And asphaltene, if drops, it becomes sludge. And a VLSFO can have 1 to 3% up to 8, 9, 10% asphaltene, depending on how the VLSFO is formulated. So it can create a lot of issue. Cat fine, the previous speakers, they have shown you some picture with, broken piston ring or the piston liner and, corroded and, worn out. So the cat fine means aluminum silicon. These are so hard. If you have in the fuel, it can make serious damage to your engine. And if you look at the chart I'm showing, actually the cat fine situation is not improving. So you have a significant amount of cat fine, and the vessel really need to do the good cleaning of the fuel to avoid the big damage. Sediment. The sediment is the one actually is you actually measure a fuel, whether the fuel is clean or the fuel is dirty. So if a fuel is clean during bunkering and your sediment value is low, you can still have that fuel become dirty when in the storage tank, because something called stability of the fuel. The stability allows the asphaltene to evenly distribute it in the fuel, but for some reason that balance can be disturbed. Means if you keep the fuel in the tank, due to mixing, due to heating, or due to some unknown reason, your fuel can break down. We have many cases every day happening, and sludge formation is serious problem for the ship engineer and the operators. So it is a serious situation now. And I will just give you two cases, one with serious sludging and one is piston ring worn out case, and you will see it can be so serious issue. Look at the picture, it is one of the recent case. And if you look at the picture, you see how much the engineers are struggling on board to keep the fuel flowing into the engine. I mean, if your filter is badly choked in the middle of the sea, your engine can just starve for fuel and engine can fail. And if your engine fail in bad weather, you can have a serious disaster. Even the loss of propulsion can even be very compromise the safety and the crew and the environment. So you imagine that just yesterday there is one ship was, unfortunately is a Singapore owner. Ship was burning in bad weather in the off coast Sri Lanka. So these are all very serious issue. The main propulsion must be fit and always, it is always in good condition with no serious issue. So this particular ship had bunkered in Europe, and they already tested the fuel. The standard analysis do not show anything very serious, except there was a separability number was very high, but the sediment value was low. So that time the fuel was still intact. Then later on, they have given us the sample from the transfer pump, also found not so bad. So then they have we have done some chemical analysis on this fuel. If you look at the left side, the analysis results on the concentration of those chemicals, they are very unusually high. So basically this fuel was contaminated with chemical. If you look at the chemical, like you have phenol, you have, alkane compounds, you have styrene compounds, but these compounds were very high level. So, and the vessel, finally vessel used the fuel, but the vessel used the fuel little bit with a good fuel, and it took them months to actually get rid of this fuel. And they had a serious issue. They had to go in a nearest port and bunker a good fuel to continue with their voyage. So they had a delay as well. And then another case I want to share with you is a piston ring worn out and breakdown case. If you see the right side, the piston ring is broken into pieces. If you see the piston and the rings, I mean, something is not right in the combustion chamber. So this combustion chamber is there to have a good combustion so that your lubrication is well performed. You have no abrasive wire, but if any of this is not correct, you will have issue. Like Tahun has mentioned fuel dilution, then there was a discussion of ignition and combustion properties. No matter how good the fuel outside the combustion chamber, if it doesn't behave well in the combustion chamber, you will have bad combustion and you will have all the issue later on. So basically your combustion should be perfect, and that's how your engine is powered. If you don't have good combustion, your fuel combustion will increase, you will have fuel dilution, your lube oil will be contaminated, your piston ring will break, your liner need replacement, and then the cylinder lubrication. You have under lubrication, over lubrication, of course. These are all another area of discussion, but just to share with you, in this case, we have done a series of tests. We did the ignition combustion analysis, we did chemical analysis, we did a standard analysis, try to understand what is the issue. And interestingly, this vessel also reported very high ion content and the BN content, because these are all two-stroke engine with cylinder oil separate lubrication function. So if you have a very high ion content in your scrap down, that is a sign something is not right in your combustion chamber. So if you don't correct this immediately, you can have a damage, and that damage can be sometimes irreversible. Means your piston ring has worn out so badly, or your liner, the graphite structure was damaged. Means it is to be open structure. Now the structure is closed. Then you may need honing, you may need liner replacement. It is a big damage. The damage can cost you huge money. Look at the liner corrosion. You can have a cold corrosion when you don't have enough alkalinity in the cylinder oil, or you can have over lubrication. Okay, the over lubrication cases we are facing. Very recently, a lot of customers are facing these issues. Means they are using low sulfur fuel, but unfortunately, there are a lot of cases going on. It is definitely not only fuel oil issue, it is also lubrication issue. And a lot of cases are at the moment under investigation. So as I mentioned to you, the graphite structure of the liner is very important. Means the liner surface should have a small open pocket for the cylinder lubrication to form a film. But for some reason, for bad combustion, over lubrication, not poor maintenance, you can, the scuffing, the blow past can start. And this blow past will start the abrasive wire. That means the ring and the liner will start rubbing each other. There will be heavy deposit. The heavy deposit will form on the piston crown, and it can increase the wear. And then you will have scuffing, and then this scuffing can turn into a big blow past, and it can end up to crankcase explosion. So these are all a serious damage. As I mentioned to you about the ignition combustion quality, we are studying this, but just to share a little bit with you, because as I mentioned to you, we have been observing the ignition and combustion characteristics of VLSFO, and it appears they have a very shorter ignition delay and in the combustion chamber compared to a HSFO. So we are still studying, probably is this a contributory case which is, doing too quick ignition, and it is disturbing the formation of oil film and not coinciding with the good combustion cycle, it is definitely not a conclusion, because we are just studying it and we see that there are many vessels, even when this vessel has problem, the other vessel did not have problem. So it could be a contributory factor together with the engine age, engine maintenance, a lot of other issues. But we are currently studying this to look at it if this is a contributory cause, So, I mean, just to summarize on the fuel management and all these things, how you can do your, good fuel management, the tips is you need to actually buy good fuel, you need to test it, you need to test beyond what is your standard testing. You need to, regularly check your system sample if your purifier is working. Because if your purifier is not working, that can be the trigger point of all the problems. And definitely you need to keep monitoring your lube oil analysis, scrub down analysis. And when you have a problem, you need to go in the deep of the problem and find out why the problem happened. If you just do a damage control and repair it and don't go and address the issue, it can pop up to the same vessel or another vessel and another time. So you need to find out the root cause. I just want to share with you a little bit on the biofuel because hold on, where is my slide? Can you see my last slide? Hold on. Okay. This because I mean you have shown a lot of trial, because Martin has shown a lot of trial run going on the biofuels. I just want to share with you that yes, we are actually one of the party on many trial runs going on. And so far we see, because it is a renewable oil, it has a future. Okay. Tomorrow you can see VLSFO can be just, it is a matter of time. All the regulator, all the country one day may decide, no, we have to go away from fossil fuel. We need to go renewable. So renewable will be definitely future. And so far we are involved in a number of trial runs, including B30. Just to share with you, we are doing a trial run with a B30 with a offshore vessel. And the outcome so far very positive. So please contact us if you need any trial run or any info on biofuel. It's not only biodiesel, I'm also talking biofuel. So currently there are many clients is with us doing the trial. So with this, I will not go on what are the issue on biofuel, because this all covered by Tahun, then covered by Martin and other speakers. But I just want to give you the good side of the biofuel, that yes, trial run going on, and so far few clients already used without any issue, but we are monitoring with them because some of them are lifting the second parcel. So we will see what is going on. Probably we will gain from there and we'll be able to share with you more on that in future. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Mr. Harun, thank you for your presentations. Okay, so now we are going to the most interesting part. I think everyone is been waiting. Tadi pada nunggu-nunggu ya. Saya lihat chatnya sih sudah lumayan penuh nih. Oke, jadi kita masuk ke sesi Q&A. Di sini kita ada beberapa pertanyaan. Yang paling aktif ini kelihatannya Pak Irfan ya, Pak Irfan Nasution. Dan Pak Irfan sendiri ini sudah melakukan summary nih. Jadi kita langsung aja ya melihat di question yang paling bawah dari Pak Irfan Nasution. How to reduce oxidation in engine and how to minimize ignition delay. So I think this one I'll pass to Mr. Weiseng, maybe.
Okay, I think I can answer the oxidation part, but not the ignition delay, because ignition delay is fundamental to the engine itself.
Okay.
For the
Mr. Weiseng, I think there's 3 and 4. I just combine it. It's the same question from the Pak Irfan also.
Sure.
How clean is a mobile guard oil in terms of detergency? And the number 4, comparison with Shell, I think we don't discuss on the brand. Maybe every oil is good, so it just depends on. So we just discuss all these 3 points.
Sure. Yeah. So for the oxidation part, earlier I talked about your oil. You have different grade, right? You have CF, CF4, CI4, CK4. If you progressively go to the higher grade has more and maybe better additives that can deal with the oxidation stability. So you can be certain a CI4 will have better oxidation performance than a CF grade, for example. So if you really want to reduce the oxidation in the engine oil, then you need to go with a higher performing oil in that case. Ignition delay, I don't think the lubricant itself can specifically change anything. I think I'll need to rely on some of the other presenters to share their experience on is there anything they can do with the engine to improve the ignition performance. For Mobile Guard itself, so Mobile Guard was specifically formulated for marine. And so, we have, many decades of experience with this oil, and, we are very confident. We work with a lot of the OEMs to make sure that it performs well enough in the engines. And specifically for Indonesia's case, I mentioned that we also trialed it with the B100 palm base. So, we are confident with this oxidation performance in that environment as well. Yeah, okay, Roland, I think I'll hand it off to yourself to pass to the others.
Okay, for the second question regarding the minimized ignition delay.
Roland, I can help you with that. I'm not sure the first one is oxidation. We're talking about oxidation, the or the loops. Of course, I think Co have already addressed the issue of oxidation to the for the fuel. Of course, you have something that can slow down the process of oxidation. If you're not using anything, then probably the best thing to do is to reduce the heating temperature and then try not to store for too long, because oxidation is something that we cannot eliminate, because when you're in a tank, it is filled with oxygen. If you have anything in a tank, I mean, the atmosphere is filled with oxygen. So oxidation is a process. It happens to even our food that is left on the table as well. So unless if you keep it in a vacuum container, then you can take away the factor of oxidation. However, you can put in some additives to actually cut or slow the process of oxidation. And then for the second question, ignition delay. Okay, ignition delay could be a few possibilities. It could be a fuel that is not burning too well. We have something called a cetane number improver that can actually improve the cetane number and accelerate the ignition, and therefore you have less ignition delay. And then there are also combustion improver where you can actually help the condition burn better. So there are actually quite a few solutions for ignition delay. So the main thing is you want to reduce ignition delay, so you don't want to have afterburning, because afterburning is actually hurting your liners, because you will see impingement of the flame onto your liner surface, which actually breaks your CLO. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Yes.
This is Desmond speaking.
Okay.
Maybe if I can add on to what Martin said regarding the ignition delay. First of all, I want to say hello to everybody. My name is Desmond. I am also from InnoSpec. So just to add on a little bit more on ignition delay, The initial delay in the diesel engine is defined as the time interval between the start of injection and the start of combustion. Okay, so this delay period consists of a physical delay and a chemical delay. So the chemical delay is attributed to the pre-combustion reaction. So as my colleague has mentioned on cetane improvers, this will help the chemical delay, therefore decreasing the initial delay. For the physical delay, it's where it is atomization, vaporization, and mixing of air fuel. So this mainly is from the engine. Of course, there is some additives where it has a detergency effect, which would also help with the atomization. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Desmond. This one relate to the next question is, if you put additive right inside the fuel, will there be any impact on the engine? Will they cause any issue on the engine, or will it be better? Any impact on the engine performance? Okay, I think I missed out the question. We just move on to the next questions, with mungkin dari Pak Nyoman ya. Kenapa Indonesia harus ke B30 kalau semua countries ya, semua negara masih menggunakan B7?
Baik Pak, ini harusnya menjawab pemerintah nih Pak. Ini harusnya menjawab Kementerian ESDM, ini harusnya menjawab. Ya mungkin alasannya yang ada di slide saya itu ya. Mungkin ya karena tadi ada bahwa kita sekarang net impor BBM, kemudian kita ada palm oil yang cukup banyak yang mungkin perlu dimaksimalkan gitu. Ini hubungannya dengan harusnya SDM yang jawab nih Pak. Kita sebagai pemakai mencoba, kalau seandainya kita bisa sesuaikan ya kita sesuaikan gitu. Kalau seandainya nanti udah benar-benar ya mencegah operasional kita gitu ya, pasti kita akan ngomong ke pemerintah. Paling gitu Pak.
Oke Pak, terima kasih Pak Nyoman.
Ya.
Pertanyaan selanjutnya adalah tentang oil analysis. Maybe I'll pass to Mr. Harun for these questions. How long do we need to do oil analysis? Is it every 125 hours, or is there any a specific hours that we need to be specific, like how many hours we need to do oil analysis?
The question is regarding the engine oil. You mean engine oil?
Yeah, engine oil.
Okay, I mean engine oil cone is there, but I will just add that, yeah, for engine oil, it depends on the engine. If you have usually those small vessels and all, they have 4-stroke engine, I believe, but big vessel also 4-stroke and 2-stroke engine. So the 4-stroke engine, you will need a more shorter interval of testing the oil because you don't have any stuffing box or separation, because the combustion chamber is directly connected with the crankcase chamber. So you have more chances of fuel dilution. Probably 2-3 months you must do. It depends on the company practice and main engine. So basically every 3 months, 6 months, 9-month, 12-month period, you keep sending the sample. It can be 2 months also for 4-stroke engine. Some company even does, because most of the company does some testing on board, remember, because lube oil, some checking has to be done on a regular basis. But I'm just giving you the interval when you take sample and send to the lab for further checking, because ship cannot do all the checking. You also need to do the BN and ion content. Probably I would recommend on a regular basis on board, followed by a further verification, sending sample to shore, because we are seeing many vessels actually it is too late before they take action. So you need to follow the oil analysis cycle very regularly, and to prevent the big damage.
Oke, thank you Mr. Harun. Mungkin Pak Rizky ya bisa sharing sedikit kalau di PAN Maritim ini apakah berapa jam nih biasanya dilakukan? Apakah sebulan atau 2 bulan atau berdasarkan waktu nih?
Oke, terima kasih Pak. Kebetulan kami dapat fasilitas ya kalau untuk lab oil sampling itu dari maker. Jadi kami sih berdasarkan memang kami akan melakukan satu analisis awal ya. Biasanya kami awal di 250 jam. 250 jam kita lihat kalau hasilnya bagus, kita coba naikin di 500 jam. Cuman rata-rata saat ini kami ambil di 500 jam karena udah cukup lama kita analisis ya. Jadi kami ada di 500 jam dan itu continuous. Kebetulan di kami karena kami sudah ISO 9001 juga ya akhirnya itu jadi target kami Pak. Jadi konsistensi pengambilan loop oil analysis itu jadi target kami juga di PAN Maritim. Saat ini ya 500 jam lah kurang lebih.
500 jam ya. Oke. Mungkin next, mungkin dari Pak Irfan puas ya. Kayaknya kita dari jawabannya dari semua narsum kita nih. Pak Irfan, jelas. Next mungkin dari Pak Franz ini. Pak Franz dari mana Pak? Apakah Pak Franz are you from
Transco
Pacific. Ya, Pak Franz mungkin bisa bertanya langsung Pak. Kayaknya agak teknis nih pertanyaan Pak Franz.
Ya enggak, I just sharing lah, because since 2019 we facing this problem. But still, until now, we cannot get a clear conclusion because, like I share in the chat screen, from the bunker vendor, is not almost not standard what we get. Yeah, mostly the content of FAME. Even we always do cross checking with the analysis. Mostly what we get is more than 30%. But it is we cannot blame because we already purchased and put on the ship, correct or not? So early 2020, I called the Donaldson filter. Yeah, Donaldson filter. We discussed quite long, and then we had a little idea lah. So we put the filter. Two kind of filter is before daily tank. Yeah, and then until now still do the like trial between 15 to 10,000 at 50,000 to 100,000 liter that we change. Yeah, until now in our company still do the analysis for that. But since mid of 2020 until now, almost I can say that around 75% to 80% can help our fleet. But still, when we engage during the sailing, we cannot. What I'm saying is from the half head to full head, the engine response is not like before. Yeah, so, must be a little slow, and then the exhaust manifold also we still take care, but all that we facing same. The injector, fuel injection pump, always will bring to the calibration, everything check. Even in the ship, we stand by all the nozzle tip ready. If something happen like black smoke or everything, we stop changing. And that I can sharing in this moment. Thank you very much. It's nice time for sharing for all of you.
Thank you, Pak Franz. Maybe have some input from Mr. Weising. I think there's regarding the power drop, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds like unavoidable because I hear all the speakers say you need to buy good fuel, you cannot store too long, but you also cannot control the quality of your fuel supplier so much, right? Because you know you bought, let's say you bought in April, but you don't know, did your fuel supplier store it since January? Then you use up 3 months already, right? So I think yes, it's a problem, but it's also very hard for us to come up with a solution that is there. We know those are the issues. So I think a lot of the suggestions, like make sure your filters are there, make sure you have all your spare parts ready. I think these are very good steps that you've taken to mitigate it as best already, I think.
Yes, Mr. Kwan, we also use your brand and start. Maybe just yesterday we make a group with the mobile guard. So mostly more check the analysis lah. Analysis for our oil. Thank you for your company support to us for previous time.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Frank. Thank you.
Okay, so Pak Franz is a customer of Mr. Weiseng. Anyway, we'll move on to the next questions regarding from the Pelindo, Emmanuel de Bua from PT Pelindo 1 ya. How do you make marine fuel into a more environmental friendly engine performance so that it doesn't damage the life of marine life? I think that's how Mr. Martin talking about like reduce greenhouse gases. But the question from Pak Emmanuel is more on the marine life. So maybe Mr. Martin, can you like give the answer for it?
Hi, thank you. I'm not sure how much I can contribute to this. When you talk about marine life, of course, one of the best is something that is biodegradable. So today, I think we're also using loops that is biodegradable. So biofuel is one of them. But then, of course, we are also not talking about throwing our fuel into the water where it's going to harm the environment. But today, we are talking more into emission. So today, the environment, the policies around fuel is only talking about emission because there's no one which is going to throw the fuel into the water. So when you talk about emission, you have biofuel, you have other alternative energy, which is everything, you have LNG, you have ammonia, but the industry today still have not have the technology, I would say, to actually migrate to the next, alternative energy. I think the work is still in progress. There are many alternate fuel available, but none of them is probably going to replace what we have today, at least for the next couple of years.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Martin. From Mr. Weiseng, how about the loops? If it's normally it's thrown to the water, right? Like let's say if we change the oil, we know that a lot of fishermen they throw to the water. Is it like?
Yeah, I think what Martin said is right. The fuel doesn't really go into the water that much. So on the loop side, we have things like grease or hydraulic gear oil that is biodegradable. So if you look in the US, for example, US is mandatory. Yeah, anything that contact water, they need biodegradable. But because in Indonesia, this is not mandatory. The government didn't put a policy and say anything that touch water need to be biodegradable. So it becomes not so widely used. But if any company, wants to be more environmentally friendly, they can opt to buy these types of grade that are available, that, it's biodegradable. And on the fuel side, I think the question was also around the performance. So right now, the fuel mandated is FAM, right? Fatty acid methyl ester. And actually for biofuel, there's a next stage, which is hydrogenated vegetable oil. So, but again, this is driven by Pemerintah's policy, right? If Pemerintah say use FAM, then that's the one you're using. If you want higher performance, actually hydrogenated vegetable oil, the performance is quite close to using a diesel type of fuel. So it's just whether the policy will push to use that type of biofuel or not. You have to depend. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is for Pak Nyoman dari Pak Teguh kepada Pak Nyoman. Pak Nyoman, Pak Nyoman, apakah masih di tempat, Pak Nyoman?
Ya, Pak.
Oke. Pak, ada pertanyaan dari Pak Teguh ke Pak Nyoman. Apakah pada saat aplikasi biodiesel, apakah ada studi Pak dengan engine maker terkait bahan B30.
Oh ya, tentunya ada Pak Teguh ya. Sore Pak Teguh. Jadi sebelum kita menggunakan B30, kita memang sounding ke engine maker Yanmar dan sempat mendiskusikan dan hasilnya memang diberikan spesifikasi tersebut. Dan kita diskusikan mereka oke gitu. Makanya kita jalan seperti itu Pak. Ya, namun tetap sih yang saya presentasi sebelumnya itu bisa dilihat bagaimana kita membandingkan spek Yanmar dengan spek B30 secara prinsip oke, tapi kita tetap melakukan lab analysis terhadap fuel B30 dan memang ditemukan jumlah partikel terlalu besar gitu di B30 sehingga kita perlu melakukan penyaringan yang lebih baik dengan mengganti ukuran fuel filternya gitu Pak. Jadi kita memang ada diskusi dengan engine maker gitu.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Nyoman. Mungkin kalau ada yang mau bertanya bisa ini ya langsung hidupin mic. Kita tinggal ada 1 menit ya untuk pertanyaan terakhir mungkin dari teman-teman di sini. If any questions, would like to raise it?
Hai Pak.
Oh Pak Frans, ya
Nyoman,
lanjut Pak.
Pak Nyoman rata-rata Tango Bravo-nya 12 LK full way full speed di RPM berapa Pak?
Itu Pak.
Pemakaian RPM-nya kalau full way full speed pakai 12 LK di berapa Pak?
Waduh. Enggak ini saya Pak.
Mungkin Pak Rizky Pak. Pak Rizky.
Siapa? Pak Rizky siapa?
Benar Pak, ada tim operation saya mungkin bisa bantu. Ada Pak Wahyu di sini.
Oh, ada Pak Wahyu. Oke.
Pak Wahyu apa on Pak Wahyu? Wah, nggak nyaut ini. Pak Wahyu, Pak Yogi, Pak Miftah.
Nah, ada Cap Auto nih. Cap Auto.
Cap Auto.
Nah, ini Cap nih.
Selamat sore.
Sore Cap.
Langsung hidupin kamera nih Cap Auto.
Soalnya saya ada mau bertanya nih Pak.
Tadi dari Pak Frans apa Pak Rizky bisa menjawab Pak untuk membandingkan nih speed.
Di RPM berapa gitu?
Iya.
Oke. Kalau TAK itu kan biasanya engine ratingnya di rating A ya Pak, continuous rating. Biasanya ya memang engine yang didesain untuk jalan terus-menerus ya 24 jam sehari. Biasanya sih di RPM rating itu di 1.500 ya Pak. Saya nggak tahu kalau untuk LAK. Kalau kami di Caterpillar maupun di Cummins itu sekitar segitu 1.500 untuk rating A. Tapi kalau di kapal-kapal kami kan mayoritas karena high speed craft kami di rating C Pak. Jadi di maksimum RPM di 2.100 tapi kami di operation di 1.800 pada saat cruising speed. Itu yang kita pakai Pak. Cuman memang kalau saran kami untuk kesempurnaan kebersihan fuel tadi Pak, karena kami main di RPM 1.200, kami dari awal sudah investasi ya fuel purifier, walaupun memang waktu kapal ini dibikin tidak ada fuel purifier, terutama kapal-kapal yang di bawah tahun 2005. Jadi terpaksa ya memang kami investasi fuel purifier mulai untuk transfer dari tangki timbun itu atau tangki simpan ke tangki harian. Itu yang mungkin tambahan aja Pak. Memang semua kapal kami sekarang sudah kami lakukan itu dan alhamdulillah ya kondisi fuelnya juga setelah fuel purifier kami lab memang tingkat kebersihannya cukup baik. Itu Pak yang bisa kami sampaikan.
Oke, Mbak Rizky, ini kita nunggu-nunggu nih pertanyaan dari Cap Auto. Silakan Cap Auto.
Terima kasih Pak Roland. Selamat sore Bapak-bapak semua.
Sore Cap Auto.
Sore.
So sorry gentlemen, I speak in bahasa. Pak Roland, kalau tadi kita lihat pemaparan semua itu kita punya problem satu Pak. Standardization mengenai quality. Standardization dari quality fuel yang disuplai ke atas kapal. Baik itu B30 ataupun low sulfur. Nah ini kalau tadi siapa Pak Harun, siapa itu memberikan gambaran, kita harus mencari good supplier. Menurut saya itu bukan solusi, Pak. Tetapi yang kita perlukan adalah suatu guarantee. Guarantee dari who, khususnya kalau di Indonesia itu dari pemerintah, dari government. Karena apa? Kita ketahui bersama bahwa pasal 57 Undang-Undang Pelayaran ayat 1C itu adalah kewajiban pemerintah untuk menyediakan bahan bakar. Sehingga dalam kesempatan yang berbahagia ini, nanti kita sama-sama cari solusinya ini Pak Roland. Bagaimana kita bisa mendapatkan suatu standarisasi ataupun guarantee dari para supplier. Kalau ada suatu guarantee, yakin bahwa kerusakan ring piston, kerusakan liners, injektor, terus juga tadi saya sangat tertarik yang disampaikan oleh Pak Frans. Mereka juga sudah kontrol sampai ke exhaust manifoldnya, apakah membara apa tidak. Itu luar biasa. Yang rentetan-rentetannya, mohon maaf, itu costly semua untuk industri pelayaran. Jadi terima kasih nih Pak Roland. Mungkin saya bukan bertanya, tapi hanya sumbang saran saja. Sumbang saran yang harus kita carikan solusi bersama. Apakah itu ke ESDM? Apakah kita langsung ke Pertamina? Karena Pertamina juga ada dilematis. Dilematisnya dari Pertamina adalah penyerahan bahan bakar yang mereka lakukan. Itu hanya sebatas sampai pipa saja. Selebihnya dari mobile bunker agent ke kapal, itu tanggung jawab mobile bunker agent. Tetapi mobile bunker agent mengatakan saya terima minyaknya kan dari Pertamina. Ini jadi suatu problem besar untuk industri pelayaran. Walaupun kita pakai filter ABCD itu tapi tidak merupakan suatu solusi. Solusi sementara, trial condition. Sampai kapan? Kita cari solusi bersama. Mungkin demikian, Pak Roland. Terima kasih Bapak-Bapak semua.
Terima kasih Chef Otto atas inputnya. Jadi ini jadi tugas kita juga Pak di INSA untuk mencarikan solusi untuk teman-teman anggota rekan-rekan kita di asosiasi ya Pak.
Siap. Komisi 9 Pak, Komisi 9 lagi kayak tahun kemarin rapat.
Ada lagi pertanyaan? Mungkin udah jam 4 ya, udah lewat juga. Jadi kita tutup aja. Ada beberapa yang kita perlu share ya. Di sini.
Satu pertanyaan boleh Pak Roland?
Oke Pak, silakan Pak.
How about the guarantee of quality there in Singapore or Malaysia? Have they guarantee standardization of quality of the fuel? So if there is something problem with the fuel condition, it's mean the users, it's mean the ship's owners can get some compensation from the supplier. Maybe they can share to us, please.
Mr. Waiseng, Mr. Martin, Mr. Harun maybe, Mr. Harun.
Yes. I think Mr. Harun. Yeah. Mr. Harun.
Thanks, Captain Otto, for your question. But unfortunately, it is a very complex area. Means, yes, if you are buying a fuel as per ISO 8217, there is a table called Table 1 and Table 2. These are the listed parameter the supplier will guarantee you. But supplier will not guarantee for everything you want. Example, if you tell them that I want a fuel which has 0 chemical compounds, maybe you can try, but they may not agree to you, or if they agree to you, it can be very expensive. So that's how you can go. But I can just add to it that every product or supplier, you have different kind of pricing. So you need to carefully go and select your suppliers. Example, a VLSFO fuel, if you go to buy from ExxonMobil, the price is maybe you have to pay more than you go and buy from another supplier. So the quality will vary supplier to supplier, and it will cost you money. So to cut it short, there will be some guarantee, but there will be no blank guarantee that you buy this fuel and anything happen, I will absorb the liability. It is impossible to give this kind of guarantee. So is that answer your question, Captain Otto?
Yeah, it's quite clear. It's that's correct. It's very complicated, not only in our area, but I think also in your area, because yes, even there is a standard from ISO, but like you said, it cannot be 100%.
Yes.
As the parameters. That is the problems.
We know a lot of things inside which I cannot share with you now. But if, let's say, if you are my client, you want my suggestion from where you should buy your VLSFO, yes, maybe over phone, I can tell you, please go and buy from there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it depends from where you pick up your fuel as well.
I thank you so much, Mr. Harun.
Thank you, Mr. Harun. Okay, I just close this webinar. Okay, just share with you some. Oke, untuk teman-teman atau para audiens, kita ada INSA News ya, sebenarnya sudah jalan dari tahun lalu. Ini majalah ini kita akan memberikan update ya, sedikit tentang pelayaran. Jadi ini free, totally free. Tinggal di-download aja di insa.or.id/bulletin-insa. Di sini akan ada semua edisi dari tahun lalu sampai sekarang. Jadi teman-teman yang mau dicatat aja atau di screenshot, nanti bisa langsung dicek ya untuk majalahnya. Digital sih. Jadi untuk selama pandemi ini kita semuanya serba digital, bisa di-download dan di-print atau dibaca langsung dari HP. Oke, untuk next ya Pak, pada menanyakan nih materi, adakah sertifikat? Sebenarnya ada, hanya akan kalau kita menerima donasi dari teman-teman, kalau memerlukan sertifikat dan materi untuk non-anggota itu ada 200.000. Tapi untuk anggota INSA, semua materi ini akan kita kirim ke email perusahaan terdaftar. Jadi nanti dari sekretariat akan mengirimkan semua materinya ke seluruh anggota INSA kita. Kalau ada pertanyaan bisa langsung di email nanti ke info@insa.or.id. Untuk next schedule-nya cek aja, follow aja di Instagram DPP INSA. Kita akan update beberapa workshop seperti ini ya, sama persis seperti ini, tapi kita akan membahas berbagai macam topik dari sistem digitalisasi, pengecatan, perawatan mesin, perawatan hal, machinery dan sebagainya, dan juga ship financing. Nanti kita akan membawakan topik ship financing juga. Oke, itu aja dari kami. Semoga workshop ini dapat memberikan solusi ya dan pengetahuan lebih lah buat rekan-rekan dan anggota INSA. Jadi terima kasih juga yang telah mengikuti ya workshop ini sampai sore, sampai hampir lewat jam 4. Saya mengucapkan semoga semuanya selalu sehat dan jangan lupa tetap jaga jarak, cuci tangan dan dengan sabun, tetap menggunakan masker. Dan saya Roland, saya pamit dan sampai jumpa di INSA Akademi selanjutnya. Merah Putih mendunia.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Salam sehat semuanya.
Sehat.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Roland.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak, izin live.
Ya Pak.
Pak.